Listen to my words, but allow your mind to work. So turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor. Now say it with some energy. Say, neighbor. Now today we have to do a little action too, right? So when you say neighbor, this is what you're doing. You say, neighbor. Don't hit. Alright, so turn to the other person and say, neighbor. You have to do it with two fingers. You know, with two fingers. Don't hit. It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do. And forget, I know your mind thinking about licks and corporal punishment. Has nothing to do with that. But I want you to remember the famous two fingers that I'm sure your mother or your grandmother hit you from small. When you want to take some cornflakes and milk. Or when you want to teach some milk and sugar. And she will come to you and hit you with the two fingers, right, Brian? And say, don't hit. We all know the story of Moses in the Bible. And unfortunately, this is one of the reasons why he didn't enter the promised land. I grew up hearing my father speak about this many, many times. When Moses was told to speak to the rock, and instead he struck the rock. He didn't just strike the rock, he called God's people rebels. And I think it's the combination of the two that caused him not to enter into the promised land. So let's take a look at the instructions that Moses was given. Remember the topic? The topic is what? Nah, it's not just that. It's, you have to do the action. You have to get it. You know, there's a song in this making. Right. Don't hit. So God spoke to Moses and he gave him some specific instructions. 1, Moses, take the rod. 2, Moses, meet with your brother Aaron. 3, Moses and Aaron gather the people together before the rock. And, Moses, let's do this again. Sorry about that. I'm pulling my notes here. God gave Moses some specific instructions, right? Yeah. Take your rod, get your brother Aaron, gather the people before the rock, speak to the rock, and give everyone a drink. That whole concept for me of don't hit in a parental scenario, I have found myself doing it as well. To correct, the child. Our son, he's very active. And for him, hitting is a game. So you can't really use licks to correct him because it is a game. He starts to laugh. He plays with his sister, but he plays with her a bit rough. And sometimes he may hit her. And our daughter will come and say, Mommy, Daddy, Christoph hit me. What is funny to me is that the very thing that we are telling him not to do, we do it and tell him not to do it. So we will tell him, don't hit. What message is being translated to him? Now, we're not speaking about licks. You know what we are speaking about today? We are speaking about mothers. We are speaking about fathers, parents, who are telling us as children, don't smoke. Don't gossip. Don't treat your husband or your wife bad. But yet still, if we were to look in our mirror, we are doing the very same things that we are telling them not to do. So, don't hit. We see Moses not speaking to the rock, but striking the rock. And the reason why he struck the rock, apart from his frustration, is because it was a proven method. It brought success to him in the past. So, if this thing brought success to me in the past, why am I to change the method now? Am I still loving my wife of 20 years ago, or am I loving her, the wife of today? Something may have worked 20 years ago, but her desires, her wants, her needs, hopefully would have evolved from 20 years ago to now. Am I giving her now what she used to want 20 years ago? Am I hitting her instead of speaking to her? Am I allowing God to tell me what to do, give me specific instructions? Am I using those instructions appropriately to minister to her? Am I using God's instructions appropriately to minister to his people? 5 things God told Moses to do. 5 specific steps of instructions from God. Was it very complicated? I don't think so. I don't think it was very complicated. But it was different to the instructions that God gave him before. And we have to be in continuous communion with God to understand when there's a shift in instructions. Sometimes we get specific instructions, and the new instructions resemble the instructions we get before. And sometimes you misunderstand what God is saying for us to do now. Many times, you buy a piece of furniture and you have to assemble it. And in assembling it, you realize, oh, good boy, I assembled this thing good. I go and buy an next one, but I go and bless mommy with it for Mother's Day. But there's a slight difference in it. But we think it's the same thing. And we went and we go to assemble it the same way we assembled the previous one, without following the instructions that were specific to that new item. Would we get the desired outcome or results? So what is God telling you as it relates to your job? What is he telling you as it relates to someone? He might tell you to do a specific thing to person A. What he might tell you to do to person B might seem the same, but it might be just a little different. Are we open to give what God is saying to give? To do what God is saying to do, to speak instead of strike? Some situations require a strike. Let's face it, there are some situations that require a strike. There are some situations, if there's injustice, it requires you to stand up, to be loud, to be vocal. But that's not every situation. You can't apply that course of action to every single situation. So the challenge is understanding when and where we need to apply that particular type of force or the instructions that we have given, that we were given. Amen? Moses just assumed that he knew what God said. And sometimes when you know what somebody might say, you tend to assume and you go on the assumption as opposed to the actual answer you're given. Any children know what I'm talking about? Mommy, I could go by Dave? Yeah, man. You and Dave grew up together, you might be a cousin. But John, different to Dave. Say, Mommy, I could go by John? Mommy's like, what? Mommy, I could go by John? So in her mind, she's not really hearing what you're saying. She's not hearing the question. But because you know in the past that she would probably allow you to go by person X, you take it for granted that she will allow you to go by person Y. So sometimes we operate on the premise that we think we know what the person is going to be saying. We think we know what they're going to say in a particular situation. I do not know. I do not know that it is. But it's interesting that Moses is the one that wrote this book of the Bible. And if he made a mistake or didn't understand it, why did he write about his shortcomings? It's an interesting question, right? He wrote a book, he wrote about it, he was honest enough to write about his shortcomings. So what we observe here, and what we want to learn from observing the instructions of God, is that he really, as in hardly repeats exactly what he said for you to do before. So we may have been given an instruction to start an outreach ministry, and God gave us specific instructions for that time, for that space, for the people that we're going to reach, for the people that are going to be working with us. And it's time to start another outreach. The instructions may be different. Are we open and are we ready to receive the instructions that are given for every step of the journey? As parents, we know all the children are the same. All our children not the same. Our first daughter, she didn't touch plugs. She didn't jump up on X or jump up on Y. Our son is the total opposite. He would touch, he would put things in his mouth. Are we supposed to deal with our son with the same knowledge that we use towards our daughter? Will it work? No. Will it work? No. And I know you're thinking about your own situations. You're in a job, the boss a particular way, and you probably in the previous job dealt with it a specific way, and you got good results. The same way Moses hit the rock and got results, right? Yes, now he got results the second time, you know. When he hit it, he got results. And I think this in particular is the area that we struggle with as Christians. When he hit the rock the second time, although he was told to speak to it, water came out. Amen? And sometimes our yardstick for success is what we see before us. We see a result, but was it God's result for that particular situation? We may even get the same result. We may have an open air meeting and 100 people get saved. But the second time, God may tell us to do something else. He might say, feed the 100 people that might come. But we are comfortable with the 100 people coming because 100 people come to my meeting and that's a success. And Taisha, that's a success. How are we measuring success? Are we measuring success based on our obedience to God or based on the response that our own actions give us? Because we can get results based on our own actions. But what we want is God's results. Amen? Because with God's results, there's no reproach. With God's results, everything works according to his plan. With God's results, we see the promised land. Because the people got their water. Moses hit the rock, got water, but he didn't see the promised land. So are we happy to have water now or to live in the abundance of the promised land? What are we settling for today? That's a question I want to ask. Today's message is not going to be very long because it's a very short question. What are we settling for? Are we willing to accept God's instructions that are specific to the task at hand? Understanding that he doesn't really always give the same instructions twice, the same way. Are we willing to listen? Or based on our knowledge of who he was before, or based on our knowledge on what he said to us before, are we operating on that? It's one thing to be in constant communication with someone. It's another thing to use the information that you were given before and operate on it. Understanding that things may change along the way. I often use the analogy with the GPS. Sometimes you want to get to a destination and the GPS says, go straight. But in your mind, the GPS not saying anything. But he gave an instruction. The instruction is go straight. So you go straight until you receive another instruction. And sometimes, because of our own knowledge, we're like, but I passed this way last week, man. I sure I take a right turn here. And you do it on your own. You may end up getting to the destination or no. But how long it will take you to get to the destination? What would you meet up? You might fall in a pothole. There was probably a reason why the GPS was taking you on this particular route. If you're driving overseas, you might get a whole set of tolls and you have to pay a whole set of money. So you may get the result based on your own action. But we want to follow God's instructions. Amen? So turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, don't hit. Don't hit. Amen? What did Moses do? Now Moses made a great start in obeying God, but he had a real bad ending. And many of us, we could appreciate that. Sometimes we start on fire for God. He tells us to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, we do it. As husbands, he may give you specific instructions to your wives. As wives, he may give you specific instructions how to love your husbands. And in the beginning, it's so easy. You know, you do it out of love and passion in the beginning. But somewhere along the line, things get a bit shaky. So let's examine what Moses did according to the 2 verses and the steps that he took, right? So Moses took the rod. Moses met with his brother Aaron. Moses and Aaron gathered people together before the rock. And then Moses said to the people, right? Now, the first 3 steps seem to match the previous instructions that he got, amen? He was supposed to take the rod, meet with his brother Aaron. He and Aaron were supposed to gather the people before the rock, and he was supposed to speak to the rock. But instead of speaking to the rock, Moses then did what? He said to the people. Have you ever found yourself in that situation where you alter the instructions that you're given? Have you ever altered the instructions that you're given? Your boss tell you to do X, you know, or to close the store at 5 o'clock. And somebody come at 5:20, boy, with a sad story. And you make a decision based on your own feeling, how you're feeling at any time. And the end result didn't turn out right because you altered the instructions. Are we speaking to anybody today? So the first 3 steps seem to be perfect, right? And God gave to Moses. So when did God ever tell Moses to say anything to the people? Did we read that in the Bible? No, he didn't have to say anything to the people. Now he would have had to say something to them to gather them, right? But at that point, God didn't tell him to speak to the people after they were all gathered. So he may have had to speak to them to gather them, say everybody, okay, come together. But after they were gathered, the next instruction was to speak to the rock. Moses then spoke to the people. Did God tell Moses to preach to the people? Did he tell him to tell the congregation anything? I don't think so. And this represents the downfall of Moses. As soon as you start deviating from the plan of God, you begin to miss it. And you fall into what? Disobedience. And there is the root of the problem. Disobedience. We alter the instructions. We say, you know what? This worked before. Why should I change it now? This approach to this particular situation worked before. Why am I getting fresh instructions when I know it worked before? I think God missing it here. Let me just go based on my own strength and let us do it. And again, the danger is not just doing that. It would have been one thing if he struck the rock and no water came. Because obviously he would have known immediately, oh God, boy, I made a mistake here. But many times when we operate in ourselves, we get the same results as if we listen to God. But what did we just do? We disobeyed the instruction. And we want to be operating in obedience rather than disobedience. So let's continue. This is what happened next. Moses lifted his hand. Moses smote the rock. Moses smote the rock again. And Moses gave everyone a drink. Now the initial instructions, I think, were about 5. God gave him 5 instructions. Moses altered God's plan and made 8 steps. Got the same results. But he used 8 steps. Deviated. So how many things is that? Is that too many things? People might say, it's just 3 things. It's just 3 more things. How bad that could be. I think there's a story in the Bible when they had to destroy everything and they took, sometimes we operate in our own self-thinking. This is a minor thing. Like when you go in the supermarket and they give you your 1 cent, right? Who else feel? I just dig a horrors with that. I'll be honest with you. I just ask for my 1 cent, Or sometimes they have 50 cents and they get 2 sweetie. No, I want my 50 cents. My 50 cents is important to me. So sometimes we take these things for granted, but it is important. You know how important it is? Try to go to a Rima or someplace and be short 50 cents now. You realize how important 50 cents are. Right? So we want to be able to agree and listen to the instructions of God without adding anything, no matter how small it may be. We want to operate in obedience. Amen? What we want to do? Operate in obedience. So if he tells us to speak, we want to speak. There are times when he might tell us to hit. I'm speaking figuratively, right? I'm not speaking literally. We want to do what he says to do. I just want to take a segue here. I'm not speaking about corporal punishment pro. I just want to give us an idea and to think. Because when Moses hit the rock the second time he got water, that method worked. But he was operating disobedience, correct? Yes. I often hear and I was speaking to Javi about this. Whenever there's a call, like when things are rising up and violence and all those kind of things, you hear an immediate call for the return of corporal punishment. Amen? Yeah. You hear it, everyone hear it. Bring back the rod in schools, pay the rod in schools. We hear it. My question though has always been this. If that is your only method of getting results, then something is wrong. Yeah. If you cannot operate without that, then something is wrong. If you look at your own house, do you beat your children every single time? No. There are some times where they might need a different form of punishment. Yeah. I just give an example. Now I'm not making a doctrine, but I just give an example. Our son thinks licks is fun, it's play. So that doesn't work. But when he does something wrong and he goes in the crib, I don't know if it's the bars. I don't know what it is. But he straightens up one time because that, to him, that is his form of punishment, right? So we use that method with him. So if it is that it works that way in the natural, why not reapply it with our own lives and listen intently to what God is saying? He's saying different things for different situations. It is not a blanket statement. You may approach a particular sister and give her a hug a particular way. You may approach another one and God tells you, do something different. Let us be obedient to what God is saying to us for every situation. How are we going so far? We going good? It sounds like a Mother's Day message. It doesn't sound like a Mother's Day message. You sure it sounds like a Mother's Day message? We will see. Alright? God reveals the reason Moses struck the rock instead of speaking the rock, as being a case of his unbelief. Moses, he probably had a problem with speaking with, an inanimate object and expecting anything to happen from just these spoken words. Now, we know that there's power in the spoken word. But if you have a problem speaking, sometimes different situations may intimidate you. But if God is telling you to do this, he knows why he's telling you to do it. Amen? So a lot of Christians, a lot of us, we are like Moses today. God is trying to teach us a valuable lesson about the spiritual law of words. Words have authority. Amen? And there's power behind them. And God was attempting to raise Moses' expectation level and his spiritual awareness. We heard from my brother Claude that what Mommy used to say, my words must have power. So words have power. Words can build, it can tear down. You can tell someone you look very beautiful today, and that could make them feel appreciated and uplifted and valued. Or you could tell somebody, good boy, that is the best you're going to come with today. And they just feel tear down. Words have power. Amen? If you did not realize it, God hardly ever uses the same thing twice. I mentioned that before. By God's instructions, Moses was supposed to speak to the rock before the people. So while the people were watching, the people would have learned a valuable spiritual lesson also. But Moses failed, and as a result, God told him that he would not enter into the promised land. It's a familiar story. We know the story. Today, I just want us to take a few points from it. There are things God is telling us to do. He's telling us even how to deal with some of the people that we love, we care. Maybe in your own family, maybe in your office. But in correcting the situation or in dealing with them, we do the very same thing that we're telling them not to do. Like that analogy. Don't hit. I'm telling someone not to hit, but I'm actually hitting them in order to tell them not to hit. We want to be able to follow instructions, the instructions that we are given. If we are given clear instructions, follow the instructions as given. Although you may have gotten results before by doing something, if the instructions alter or just a little different, and if God is the one giving the instructions, listen to his instructions. Because we don't want results based on our own action. We want results that are based on his instructions. Amen? Love one another. Appreciate your parents. Appreciate your mom. Happy Mother's Day. And we want to really appreciate them by listening to them too. Following our mom's instructions. Sometimes we alter her instructions. She gives us instructions based on her knowledge, her own experience. But we add a little 3 things to it. We get 5 instructions, but we add a little something. She say, I want a Christian boy for you. So we bring a boy who going to church. You know what I mean? We kind of alter it a little bit. I see your sister smiling. You know what I'm talking about, right? We bring somebody who going to church. Going to church and Christian is not the same. But we interpret it as that, right? Because we want to add to it. Tell his son to treat your wife a particular way, but we alter it. So let us listen to the instructions by those in authority. Amen? And always remember, if you remember anything as I said today, raise up your hand with me, the 2 fingers. Come on, you know the 2 fingers. I show somebody granny, give them the 2 fingers. Visitors, anybody ever give you the 2 fingers? Yeah, man. So after 3, we're going to do it, right? 2, 3. Don't hit. Thank you very much. God bless you.